In today's lesson, we are going to look at some English expressions that you can use in your daily life. So I've put together some interesting English expressions that I hear native speakers use all the time. And these expressions will definitely help you to sound more natural and comfortable when you are speaking English. Let's see what they are. So as always, welcome back to GSL-English. My name is of course Gideon, and I am here, as always, to help you speak natural, fluent and confident English. And today we are going to do that by looking at some daily English expressions together. These are expressions that you can use every day in different circumstances to help you sound more natural, but also express yourself in a clear and understandable way. Let's get straight into it with expression number 1. The first expression that we are going to look at today is to get the gist, or to get the gist of something. What does that mean? Well, gist is an interesting noun that refers to the essence or the main point of something. Sometimes mistakenly spelt with a J at the beginning. I know this because that was a mistake that I was making, but it is most definitely spelt with a G at the beginning. Gist. So what does this funny little word mean? Well, if we get the gist of it, or get the gist of something, it means that we understand the main idea or the main points without perhaps understanding all of the minor details. So we get enough information, we understand the main points, the main principles, but perhaps we don't follow along or understand all of the minor details. We get the gist of it. For example, let's imagine that we are buying a new cooking appliance. Let's take an air fryer, for example. Now, I've chosen an air fryer because I recently converted to using one. And let me tell you, I absolutely love this thing. It's changed my life. So if you are an air fryer lover or user, please let me know in the comments. Just say air fryer and we can appreciate this amazing piece of technology together. But let's get back to the class. When I bought my air fryer, it came with the thickest book of instructions. It was like a novel. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. 1, because I don't want to, and 2, because I don't really have enough time. So I scanned through the instruction manual, and from that scanning, I understood the main points of the air fryer. I understood the main functions of how it works. But I still don't know all of the little details and all of the things that it can do. But I understand the main principle and idea of how to operate and work it. I get the gist of it. I don't understand all of the details or know everything about it just yet, but I get the main idea. I get the gist of it. As another example, maybe you are watching a very complicated film that has so many little details that sometimes it can be difficult to follow along, can't it? And somebody asks you, perhaps a friend, after that film, did you understand it? If you did understand the main points, you could say, yeah, I think I got the gist of it, meaning that you understood the main points or plots of that film, but perhaps you missed a few details, but you understood enough to watch, understand, and enjoy that film. You got the gist of it. That's expression number 1, to get the gist of something, to understand the essence and the main points of what you are looking at. Okay, expression number 2 is an expression that I love to use, and that is to be back in a jiffy. I'll be back in a jiffy. What does that mean? Well, in this context, we are going to view the word jiffy as a measurement of time. Okay, so jiffy is a measurement of time, which refers back to its possible origin as early as 1780, specifically meaning a short period of time. So that measurement of time, a jiffy, is referring to a very short period of time. So when we talk about doing something in a jiffy, or most commonly saying, I'll be back in a jiffy, we are saying that we will do that thing in a very short period of time. It won't take us long. And as I said, this expression is most commonly used in the sentence, I'll be back in a jiffy. I'll be back in a jiffy. Meaning that we will go somewhere and return in a very short period of time. Here's a scenario that we could possibly use this expression. Let's imagine that we are at work and we want to make a cup of tea for everybody. We open the office fridge and there's no milk in there. Disaster. So we say to our work colleagues, there's no milk, I'll pop out and get some, I'll be back in a jiffy. Meaning you're going to get that essential milk for the much needed cup of tea, but it won't take you long. You'll be back in a jiffy. Or let's imagine another scenario. This happens to me a lot of the time. Maybe we're on a video call with a friend, colleague, or family member, and then you hear a knock at the door and you need to answer it. We could say, 1 minute, there's somebody at the door. I'll be back in a jiffy. So 1 minute, give me a moment. I'm going to step away from camera. I'll answer the door and then I'll be back in a very short period of time. So it's a nice and informal expression that we can use to refer to a very short period of time, most commonly when we are going to return in a short period of time. I'll be back in a jiffy. Brilliant expression. Expression number 3 is, you don't seem yourself. You don't seem yourself. This is an extremely interesting expression that we use to talk about someone, particularly someone that we know well or spend a lot of time with. Now, of course, we can't take this expression literally. That would imply that they are someone else. If you don't seem yourself, you seem like someone else, and that can get a little bit weird if we look at that literally. So let's look at the definition through an example. Imagine that you have a work colleague that comes into the office every morning smiling. They are happy, they are talkative and cheerful, and it makes everybody else smile. But one day they come into the office and you notice they're not smiling, they're not happy, they're not cheerful. They are quiet and seem quite distant. We could say, is everything okay? You don't seem yourself. And this expression means that that particular person is not acting in the usual way that they would. They are behaving differently from what we would normally expect. Their behavior is different. It's not like them. We can use this in a variety of situations. Perhaps we notice that someone's emotions are different, just like we looked at. Usually happy, but one day they seem very sad. Or maybe somebody seems sick. You don't seem yourself. Are you okay? Are you feeling okay? Or another interesting area that we can use this expression is when something seems suspicious. Maybe somebody, a child, has done something they shouldn't have done. What have you done? You don't seem yourself. So we can use it in a variety of different contexts. It's a useful expression to use when we notice that somebody we know well or somebody that we are used to is not acting in the normal way that they would. They're behaving differently. They don't seem themselves. Okay, the next expression we are going to look at, I thank my father for, because he used this the other day and I thought I need to share this with you. And that is stomping ground. Stomping ground. This expression is used to talk about a place or an area that somebody is very familiar with, where they like or used to like spending their time. I particularly and most commonly use this expression to talk about the past. So talking about places perhaps where we used to live, where we used to hang out and spend time with our friends. That's when I most commonly talk about my stomping ground. Or maybe there was a place that we used to go with our friends. Maybe it's a shopping centre or a certain park. Areas that we used to spend a lot of time and that we are familiar with. We can refer to as our stomping ground. As an example, let's imagine that there are 4 friends that used to be in a band, and in the past, they played in the same pub on Saturday nights every week. That was in the past. As a sentence, we could say, the band played at their old stomping ground last night. It was brilliant. So the band played in an area that they're familiar with, that they know well. It's their stomping ground. Or maybe we passed through an area that we used to live. We spent part of our life there. We could say, this is my old stomping ground. This is my old stomping ground. An area where I used to spend a lot of time. We're familiar with it. We know it well. So a brilliant expression to highlight or talk about somewhere that we are currently familiar with, or most commonly we used to be very familiar with and spend a lot of time in the past. My old stomping ground. My old stomping ground was in the southeast of England in a little village called Forkham. Yeah, that's my old stomping ground. Perhaps let me know in the comments. Where's your old stomping ground? And the final expression we are going to look at today is to have a lot on your plate. To have a lot on your plate. Once again, we're not talking literally. Although sometimes I do literally like to have a lot on my plate. Particularly when it's my mum's roast dinner, I want as much on my plate as is physically possible. But here, we're not talking in so much of a positive sense. It has a bit of a negative connotation. When we say that we have a lot on our plates, it means that we have a lot of work to do or a lot of things to deal with. And we often use this expression when we've got a variety of different things going on, things we're dealing with, or different things that are on our minds. Could be work, family, financial, health, many different things that we're having to deal with. It's taking up a lot of our time, energy, and mental power. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to get through these problems. It just means that we've got a lot on. And we can actually use this expression to respond to one of the previous expressions in this video. Now, when we have a lot on our plates, a lot on our minds, a lot to deal with, perhaps we don't seem ourselves. Perhaps we are acting in a little bit of a different way, or we seem a bit distant. Maybe a close friend would say, "Is everything okay? You don't seem yourself." We can answer that with this expression, "Yeah, I'm okay. I've just got a lot on my plate at the moment." You're just highlighting that you've got a lot to deal with. You've got a lot going on. Got many different things on your mind, and it's just encompassing your thoughts. So another brilliant expression we can use to express ourselves naturally and clearly that we've got a lot of different things going on in our life. So using the expressions that we have looked at today will help us to express ourselves in a much more clear and understandable way, particularly when talking to advanced or native speakers. They will understand what you mean when you use these expressions. But please, don't just watch this video and then move on. Make note of these expressions. Maybe watch it again and write some notes down, and then try and use them throughout the week. Don't just forget them, because learning these new expressions is just the first part. We then need to use them, to apply them in our lives. This way, then they will become part of our vocabulary toolbox. But please, don't just listen to these expressions and then forget about them. Try and use them over the next week. Even try using them in the comments below. Choose an expression, try writing a sentence with it. Don't worry about making mistakes. This is a place to practice. It's a place to improve. So maybe give that a try. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Thank you so much for joining me in this lesson, and I will see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.